I was watching a lot of Ingmar Bergman movies, and because there's subtitles and there's very little music in them, it's really fun to just like sit there and play guitar and like, oh, well, that word is beautiful. Like, just sing it, whatever. Anna, please, won't you tend to this fire? I'm so cold on my own, cold and lone. There's something that corresponds with nature in the way that ship was built, and the curves and everything. And then I made the frame around it, and I don't know, it kind of looks like a shark eating it or something.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of Jonah-esque.
Yeah. There
has got to be more than this.
Welcome to the Morse Code Podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurially minded creatives in music, film, and writing. My name's Corby, and I'm hoping these conversations inspire you to push deeper into your own work, whether you're a full-time professional or just starting out on your own creative odyssey. I'm really excited to share this conversation with singer-songwriter and mixed media artist Andrew Combs, who's about to open his first solo exhibition at the Julia Martin Gallery here in Nashville. That's happening, or happened, May 4th, 2024. As an additional feature, Andrew will also be performing songs from his catalog at the opening with pedal steel player Spencer Cullen Jr. Andrew's enjoyed a storied career so far, touring with Kacey Musgraves, Chris Stapleton, and Eric Church, and he's our first ever tiny desk performer, which, as you will hear, I geek out about. I've been fortunate to work with the man a little bit. We wrote a song here at my house in East Nashville called Death in Venice, on the cusp of what turned out to be a worldwide pandemic. Andrew's involvement with painting is not new, but this solo show marks a pretty significant shift toward the world's recognition of this side of his talent. We talk about his work, both visual and auditory, and discuss his mental breakdown toward the end of 2020 and how that led to this latest album of original songs, Sundays. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the conversation takes a spiritual turn when we talk about the role transcendental meditation played in his recovery, as well as the role another form of meditation, Vipassana, has played in my own. If you get something out of the Morse Code Podcast, please like and subscribe. And now here's my conversation with Andrew Combs. Andrew Combs, thank you so much, man, for making some time for us over here.
Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. And why I reached out to you is because you have a show, I think by when this airs, I think 2 days from now. And throw that date out exactly.
The show is May 4th.
May 4th at the Julia Martin Gallery. Mm-hmm. And that is not for your musical works, which are considerable and highly acclaimed, but for your painting. Mm-hmm. And I think that one of the things I have no business asking you questions about painting because I'm, let's just say, not educated in that capacity, but I do enjoy art. And we've had a painter on here in the past, and it was really a wonderful learning experience for me. And also creativity is creativity. So
totally. Yeah. I don't know much about painting either.
Well, that's part of what's, I think, interesting about your story. Before we go there too far, is this your first show?
It's my first solo show. I've done 2 group shows before. Mm-hmm. And one was with other musicians who paint. That was sort of the gist of the whole thing. And then the other one was with a photographer. Yeah.
Did you, was this set up a long time ago and then you created works for the show specifically, or how does that work?
For this one?
Yeah.
For this one, yeah. I talked to Julia about a year ago, and she said, you have a year to get 18 pieces. And so I just started immediately, and, things amp up towards the end because you're time crunch. Yeah.
What they are.
But, it was just pretty organic. She was introduced to my stuff via Instagram, like through a friend, actually an old, a guy who works at a label I used to work at, or used to put out my music through. And she was interested, and we got together and hit it off.
Cool.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say that these works were created as a cohesive whole, or with that in mind, or?
Yeah, it's tough because a year is a long time to be like making 18 individual artworks. So I feel like they kind of, a lot of times there'll be sort of, 3 to 5 that are kind of part of a series in my mind, but then hopefully with the intention of them all having a common thread at the end. Mm-hmm. But I'm also just not experienced enough, nor I don't know. The painting thing is green. I'm very green to it, so I kind of just try to make as many as possible without trying to think too much about that. You know what I mean? So.
Well, now that we're talking about it, I kind of want to know a little bit more, and also, don't feel like you have to articulate anything. That's impossible
well, I
to
won't.
Articulate.
Don't worry,
because I won't. I can't expect the impossible. What can't be expressed. But part of what I kind of stand in awe outside of this thing, and I'm like interested in a number of things. We've known each other for a while, and I have pursuits outside of music as well. But painting and visual arts are something that's just like I find intimidating. There was maybe like 20 years ago, I would do self-portraits and pen and ink and stuff, and I just kind of abandoned that when I saw that other people were so much better at it than me, and I fell prey to maybe that thing that a lot of us do, where we're like, imposter syndrome is one way of putting it, but the point is that I don't even know if you put me in front of a canvas and said, well, make a picture, I wouldn't even really know where to start. And so I guess if I have one question, it's how do you know where to begin? Or do you have an idea of what you want to make in advance, or is it like let the paint lead?
I like to start with an idea, and that could be as abstract as I'd like it to be. It doesn't have to be a tree or whatever. But I would say 75% of the time it veers off into something totally different. So I think a big part of painting that I enjoy is that sort of improvisation after starting an idea. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important, and it's changed the way that I write songs too. It's like to be able to just go with the flow, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. But
let the song lead, let the painting lead. I was going to ask that if that was the case in your songwriting, and it sounds like yes, and more so in the sense of like.
Yeah, I used to be a subscriber to the formula of songwriting more so. Like the classic country or folk music. First chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And now I'm just more open to experimenting and finding new things that excite me.
Yeah, I mean, you could put Too Stoned to Cry maybe in the earlier category. Mm-hmm. That's like a classic country song.
Totally.
In the best sense of the word. And I think that some of the songs that we might be hearing today are emblematic of this new approach. Mm-hmm. They're a bit, not to say nonlinear, but structurally they're not verse, chorus, bridge out.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the music for a second. And I read through your bio, and I knew that you were from Texas and Dallas area, but you in the bio you say, I don't really like fly any particular geographic flag. Is that fair?
I kind of. The guy who wrote that, I kind of made him insert that in there because he was harping on the Texas thing. And I'm not a there's a lot, maybe I'll get in trouble with this, but there's a lot of prideful Texans out there.
Yeah.
And I don't consider myself one. I mean, I'm proud to be from there, but I don't stand up and say Texas is best and all that kind of stuff. I think there's
you don't jump into that.
No.
Yeah.
I'm all about everywhere. I like to experience all sorts of places and things.
Well, what brought you to Nashville in the first place?
That would go back to the country songwriting. I mean, the guys like Harlan Howard and Guy Clark and Mickey Newberry, those were my heroes, and they all came through here or stayed here, and did the publishing thing. And that's what I really wanted to do. And I did it for 6 years and realized that it's a totally different ballgame now. But
So you had a publishing deal in the sense of you were not pursuing an artist career.
I was doing
overtly.
both, but yes. Really, if it were up to me, I would just write songs for other... I mean, maybe make a record every once in a while, but like not really pursue the artist career. Because I prefer the creative process more than the like entertainment and the branding of it all. But I quickly realized when doing the publishing deal that if I wanted to keep writing the songs that I like writing, I was going to have to put them out myself. You know,
You're going to be the conveyor of those songs. Well, I think that for like part of the one of the impetuses, do the right word yourself, listener, for this podcast is sort of just to talk with folks that are interested in moving forward in their own career, or what it is like or what was like. And we've had a different experience. But one thing I'm curious about is, so you had a publishing deal for 6 years. You thought, okay, maybe I need to put out some of these songs. You were on New West for a minute, for several records. I want to say 3 records.
no, it was 2 records and an EP. So yeah, I guess 3-ish.
Yeah. So, and New West, for those not in the know, is a celebrated label that's got a lot of, I don't know, it's an honor to be on that label. People might think I wouldn't mind to put in a record out on New West. They've had a impressive lineup of artists, and that must have been, was that an exciting moment? And this might have been 10 years ago, so forgive me if this is like way old hat. We're going somewhere with this.
Yeah, it was probably around 10 years ago. Well, maybe a little less, 8. Yeah, of course. I mean, I, like, in high school and in college, it was something I looked up to. And like you said, they always had, like, a great roster and stuff. Yeah. Totally thrilled to put out music with them, and they're all good people. We just, like, in the end, we didn't align in some ways, so we went our separate ways. But yeah, I also just kind of found that in terms of money in music industry, it's so hard to maintain like a decent living, especially I have kids now, and I just kind of wanted to start trying to keep everything closer, like owning masters and being able to not tour when I didn't want to tour and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Not that they were shoving me out there to tour, but like they always wanted that
want
to
you to be perpetual.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Which I understand.
Totally.
It's a business at the end of the day. But I found myself, it was pre-pandemic, but not that far before, just kind of fed up with like trying to make a living in the music industry. Like that was my sole source of income. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided to get a part-time job, and I had started painting, started selling some of those every once in a while. And I found myself happier than ever, mm-hmm. you know, and able to be home while we were raising a young child and then another young child. Really helped with my relationship with my wife and my relationship with myself and kids, obviously, and friends. And I don't know, it makes more sense for me, at least at this time in my life.
Yeah. I remember when I first moved here, and I had, prior to moving to Nashville, I was living in Seattle, and I very much identified myself as like a full-time artist, and all my income had to come from music, or just was, because I was putting all my energy into it. And consequently, I was just perpetually broke, and that's fine when you're 25 and you have no accountability.
Yeah.
But when I first moved here, I had some things fall into place kind of immediately, and I was like, maybe took them for granted. Either like won a big song contest and had an indie label pick me up, and then 8 months later, the indie label had imploded, and I was 2,000 miles away from my fan base and without any means whatsoever. And I ended up like getting a job parking cars, a job that I held for like 3 years. And initially, it sort of hurt my feelings because that's not how I saw myself. In hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And one of the surprise things was that in absence of that like constant pressure of like making rent on how am I going to turn this guitar into money, I was so free. And it was so nice to just show up and punch a clock and make my money. And then when I came home, I could do whatever I wanted. Yeah. And it was like the creative opportunity was such that I benefited from it in the short term and the long. That's when I got into film. That's when I wrote a bunch of short stories that ended up getting published a couple of years later. Yeah. And I just think there's so much to be said for taking that burden of making money off of your art, especially if you're not inclined to, I don't know, if you're not super commercially minded.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. For a mid-level artist like myself, it's like I guess there really is no middle-class artist anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's just so hard to go on the road and make records with a label that owns everything. And, it gets to be this, you just find yourself digging a deeper and deeper hole for yourself. And it is not fun mentally.
Yeah.
And not to mention, like, I found myself very unhealthy when I was touring all the time. So I also didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, touring is not creative.
Yeah.
And it is hard on your body and everything. And that was one of the things that, started happening right before the pandemic for me. And then the pandemic kind of sealed the deal. And I'm like in my mid-late 40s now. And so I was touring hard a little longer than maybe I even wanted to. But the shellac really wore off. Especially not just because it was hard. I don't mind doing something hard, but just because it just was not creative. It's just like waking up, having to be somewhere. Here's load in, play the show. That's fun.
Yeah.
And then it's like find the hotel, go to bed, wake up in the morning, send out a couple emails out, and finding a way beyond that, I think is really helpful to the creative-minded person. So it's. It sounds like you've kind of hit that spot.
Yeah, I mean, monetarily, it's not very fruitful, but like we get by and we're happy, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and the story. I mean, the other thing is that you're not doing the same thing over and over that you've been doing, expecting some kind of magical new result. You're like trying a new thing. So that story is still being written. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully there'll be a nice arc at the end of my life.
We can only hope. We're just hoping for the arc.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is what motivates, what guides us forward, these lifetime creatives.
Yeah. I find it more interesting. I mean, I did contemplate the idea of, releasing music under a different name or something like that because things were gradually changing and going in new directions. But I just kind of took a step back and looked at other artists that I really respect, and they weren't trying to like rebrand themselves. They just kept going.
Like, you mean like release music under a band?
Yeah, or whatever, just changing it up, which I think this day and age, maybe that's more of something, more of a modern thing to do, like if I were to release a record under a band name and then just paint my face or, whatever,
Yeah.
do the whole thing, and I don't know, it didn't feel natural to me. And like I said, the artists, not necessarily always musicians, but like artists in general that I admire are people who are willing to change over the course of a long time and explore and find new things that are exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also speaks maybe to some of the singer-songwriter roots, because we share an admiration for Guy Clark and Harlan and like people that were a person writing a song. They weren't a brand.
Yeah.
They were just, there was a connection to the human being doing the thing. And maybe that's like naive by modern standards or something.
It sure seemed like it.
Yeah. Like you have the Postal Service, which is, I guess, a band, maybe Ben Gibbard and the guy who produced the record. We could think of somebody who's a band, but it's really just a person. And that is, I think, smart, but just a different animal,
Yeah.
Maybe there's something to be said too for like being once removed from the music. I remember like reading something about Lana Del Rey, whose name is not, it's Elizabeth, I think something.
Okay.
And she said that when she invented this personality, Lana Del Rey, it made it much easier to write songs of this vintage. And that makes a lot of sense.
I get that, but that doesn't feel true to me for me to do that. I don't think it would be fun. It would be fun for a minute.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I could keep.
Life is short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, similarly, like when I tried to play the sync game for a while and had some success, and it was really nice to get a couple of songs and TV shows. But I noticed that the people that were really successful at it, like they were not hanging their shingle out as artists anymore. They were just like writing for sync.
Oh yeah.
And awesome. Some of my friends are so successful at it even right now, and they've got this. They've nailed it. They're like writing songs for that purpose.
Yeah.
And I come back to it just like, I just want to write a song that is very me, that means something to me. Mm-hmm. I think we probably have that in common.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Although I haven't written a song in a long time.
Well, seasons, man.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could play a song right now. I think that you were mentioning a couple from the latest record. Do you want to set maybe Anna Please up?
Yeah, Anna Please is a song that's near and dear to me. I was, when I wrote this record, it was during pandemic times, and I was watching a lot of Ingmar Bergman movies, and I would just, because there's subtitles and there's very little music in them, it's really fun to just like sit there and play guitar and like, oh, well, that word is beautiful, like just sing it, whatever. And I was doing that nearly every day because I hadn't watched any of his movies. But our mutual friend Jordan Linning introduced me to him, and I was just going down a rabbit hole of Ingmar Bergman, and wrote a bunch of songs that would be sort of about the film that I'm watching, And this one is about a character in his movie Cries and Whispers. She's sort of the housekeeper tending to a dying woman. Her name's Anna, but I call it Anna because I don't say Anna.
Yeah. You're American.
I'm American.
All right, let's play it.
Cool. 1, 2, 1, 2. Anna, please, won't you tend to this fire? I'm so cold on my own, cold and lone. Anna, please tell me where my sisters are. Are they too proud to see me now? shard of glass between their thighs. Red is the color of my blood and love, my blood and love. Red is all I see. Let it swallow me. Oh, and please, my dove. And won't you let me lay my weary head upon your breast to cry, crimson freckled white, and bless your devotion to us all. If I had me any sway, I'd give it all away to you. You are the heart of the house, brave as a lion and quiet like a mouse. Red is the color of my blood and love, my blood and love. Red is all I see. Let it swallow me. Oh, and please, my dove. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. My dove.
Really cool video with that one.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Who directed that?
That is my friend Austin Lee, who I actually would love to introduce you to. He's great. He's one of those, I was gonna say guys, but he's like a kid. He's 24, 25, and just has a wealth of knowledge in photography and film, and is so smart and sweet and hardworking. And we got to start working together on a record I did for New West called Ideal Man. Through a PR company, they recommended Austin, and he was still in film school at at University of Texas. And I went down there, we made a video, and then we just kind of became fast friends. And he did all the videos for my newest record, Sundays, including that one, which is a total homage to Bergman.
Yeah. I got that sense
Mm-hmm.
watching it. That's awesome. What a find in a collaborator and
he's become a really good friend, and like he just did my press photos. He's just like always down to clown around and figure something out. And
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
He lives here in town now?
He lives in Austin. Austin from Austin. He's from Dallas originally, but we didn't know each other growing up. He's a lot younger, and he lived in LA and then Nashville, and now he's back in Austin. Yeah.
I have a fanboy question for you. And we've had several Grammy people here on the show, which has been wonderful, but I don't think we've had a Tiny Desk participant. And I just wonder, being such a fan of that series, as anyone who loves music is, well, congratulations on that. That was an amazing opportunity. So fun. And I'm just curious, like, what was it like? Do you take an elevator up to the 4th floor? Is it like in an office building, or, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
Just what
it's
you
in an
think?
office building. We did a COVID test, and then we went up there, and they have like everyone's cubicles or not cubicles, but desks. And then they've set up the tiny desk area, which I guess is supposed to be modeled after Bob's old desk area.
But it's not a.
It's not
active
functioning.
station
I don't
anymore.
think.
Yeah,
No,
wouldn't
I
think
mean
so.
people maybe sit at a laptop there every once in a while, but yeah, it's all decorated and stuff. And yeah, you just do it live, and I guess if you mess up, maybe you can do it again. But they prefer to do it live, and then they have everyone come up from the offices and watch you.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, came out of the blue. I just was so happy that it happened.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that a label connect, or is it?
It was sort of a combination of everything, and someone up there, his name's John, he does the world music side of things, but he also will bring in songwriters that he likes. He does world music and like classical, I think. But I guess each one of them in that department maybe gets a handful of slots per year. And he was a fan of a past record and then heard Sundays and liked it and was like, look, you know what, let's do it.
That's so great, man.
I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I will give a lot of credit to Missing Piece PR Group, which is who helped with the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Was it nerve-wracking, or were you just kind of able to be yourself? And
Luckily,
it came across calm and.
Yeah, luckily it was in the middle of a tour, so it was like yeah.
One of the things I like about you, I've told you this too, watching you play, is that I know that you sort of downplay the entertainment side of your personality, but it's like, it's not for nothing that you're, a successful touring singer-songwriter. But I remember there was that not tribute show. It was at the Basement like a year ago. Who's the producer that is in our world, and he's great, and he had a record that he made during the pandemic, and that were his kids' favorite songs.
Oh, Dan Nobler.
Dan Nobler,
yeah.
exactly. So it was the Nobler song, and you sang your song, and I was just commenting because it was like really loud. Sappy was playing guitar, and it was like, it was up there, and it was awesome. But as a singer, pretty hard to sing like on a low register over that kind of thing, and it's like the sign of a true professional to not over sing and to just trust that your front of house has got you, because he did, and it cut, and it was awesome.
Good.
But so easy to like feel like you have to like sing hard.
Oh, it took me years to figure that out, and I can't stand to see old footage of me or even hear even recordings. I was doing it, but
it sounds like what it is. It sounds like
good. Yeah.
Trying.
Yeah. It sounds like trying.
Yeah.
And so not good. But like, I started to realize, I don't know when it was, but I do remember going on tour with Kacey Musgraves and hanging out with her. And at the time, Misa was in the band, and they're both so good at singing, but they sang so soft. But it was just like perfect. And we would hang out back like after the show, and they would play music, like, pick some old songs and stuff, and you kind of have to like lean in to hear them, but it was perfect. And I was like, oh, I need to start thinking about that.
Yeah.
Especially when I started singing like falsetto and stuff, which I do more often now. I mean, there's nothing worse than trying really hard to hit something and just falling on your face.
Yeah, it's so true. I remember it's also with playing. I've spent some time in the bluegrass world. I'm a fan of the music and go see bands. And I remember seeing at Folks Fest, Rocky Mountain Folks Fest, it's like a Planet Bluegrass thing in Colorado. But then Mandolin Orange, now Watch House, was playing, and Andrew Marlin, who plays the mandolin. He doesn't plug in, or he wasn't at that show. He was just like micing it. And it would be so tempting to just be like, it's a big crowd, outdoor stage, to just like feel like you got to dig in a little bit. And man, it's just like these bell notes coming out of his mandolin because he just wasn't even trying, just like letting the mic do its job. So you learn a lot by watching pros. And,
Totally. Yeah. And I also feel like it's a good way to crowd control. I mean, if
100%.
Yeah, the quieter you get, the quieter they're gonna get. The louder you get, the louder they're gonna
Totally,
get.
so true. Yeah, if you like try to compete with them, they're like, all right, it's on.
Yeah,
we'll crank it up too.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the paintings for a second, if we can. You were nice enough to send me a couple of photos beforehand, and maybe we can look at these for the folks just listening. I think that will make it interesting. Just hang. What is the name of this painting?
I don't know yet. I haven't named any of them most of them. This was very recent. And I probably normally wouldn't have like put it in a show because it's really just a drawing. It's colored pencil. And it's based on an etching I saw in an old French magazine depicting a scene from, I think it was World War II, might have been World War One. I don't know, but of a town that had obviously been ransacked. And then the blooming tree in front, and what the etching is just black and white. And obviously, I didn't like trace it or anything. I just kind of did my own version. But yeah, I did this while I was watching my youngest kiddo. I was surprised that, no food or milk was spilled on it, and ended up really liking it. And it's actually on the back of an old poster from a show like that I had printed that I had too many of. Like we always, we just have boxes of stuff. I'm like, well, this paper is good paper. And then I just framed it up recently. It'll be, my dad's been helping me frame the works on paper for the show. And I don't know what I'll call it if you have any ideas.
So back on the opposite side is an Andrew Combs show poster.
Yeah.
That's great. It's like a secret bonus.
2 for 1.
Totally. And is this an example of like letting the painting lead? So did you begin with the town and go from there?
I began with the tree. Yeah, I tend to do what's closest first.
Start in the center.
Yeah. I wanted to portray the smoke like that, the big plumes of smoke, which, looking back on it, maybe I would have done some different colors, but I do like the way it turned out.
I mean, there's something a little bit Van Gogh-y about.
Yeah, some people have said that. Yeah, just with the mass amounts of small markings of color.
For sure. Let's take a look at another one. Maybe Kyle.
Oh yeah, so this one.
This is a photo of. Is that wood? That's like sculpture. Or mixed media.
Yeah, I don't know what you call it. But I found that little squirrel in the middle at a local place called Turnip Green Reuse Center, which sells secondhand like art stuff and like anything from crayons to scraps of metal, and they just have all sorts of cool stuff. And I love piddling around, like going on walks and picking up stuff and trying to incorporate it into something. And then I got a scroll saw for Christmas, which a scroll saw is like, it's on a table and it's a real thin blade, and you're able to, if the wood's not too thick, you're able to move the wood so you can make like kind of puzzle pieces, and this is my very first. So it's not perfect, but I kind of like it that way. I just did all the pieces freehand and made sure they lined up, and then
That's not cut from one board.
it is cut from one board, but freehand from that board, and then wood glued down to a piece of plywood behind it, and then framed it with I guess I don't know, like you would call it. It's basically just trim wood for house that you get at Home Depot, and stained it and nailed it in there.
So you obviously won't frame that at the show. That's like
that's
a freestanding object. It's like,
yeah, you could just hang that on your wall.
yeah,
Like as it is.
yeah. It's exciting, man. You're just a bold spirit.
This is based on this Norwegian Viking ship called the Gokstad. If that's how you say it, I don't know. But it was a ship they found in Norway, like kind of near Oslo. It was in a burial mound. It was made for warfare or transportation, or pretty normal Viking stuff. But I guess a king, I think his name was King Olaf. I can't remember his last name, or if he even had a last name. But he was buried in it, in a mound, and was surrounded by the bones of 12 horses, 6 dogs, and 1 peacock. So I guess that's how he wanted to go to the afterlife. And I just thought it was cool, and it kind of there's something that what's the word, corresponds with nature in the way that ship was built, and the curves and everything. And then I made the frame around it, and I don't know, it kind of looks like a shark eating it or something.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of Jonah-esque.
Yeah.
That's why I picked it, because it was kind of a lot going on.
Yeah, I do like that one a lot. And that was one that Julia Martin had picked before I had even met her, or before I had started preparing for the show. She did a 10-year anniversary for her gallery and put that one up as a part of a group collection.
Awesome.
But it didn't sell, so it will be in the new one, in the new show.
Bodes well for the show. I don't know Julia personally, but I've known her presence in this community for a long time. I think I used to live with an artist named Emily Leonard. We were buddies when I first moved to town, and she's do you know her? She was from here originally, and she lived here until recently, 8 years ago maybe. But she's a great painter and a serious person and a complicated person. And I knew Julia through Emily Leonard. So
yeah, I'll just say, like, when I first moved to Nashville, I feel like it was kind of, if her 10-year anniversary, so around 2012 or 2013, I guess, when she opened, which would have been a little bit after I moved here. But when I started getting acquainted with Nashville and, like, knowing people, like, actually becoming part of a scene or whatever you want to call it, I remember Julia's gallery and her name, and it being one of the only outlets for, like, what I found to be interesting art in Nashville. So for her to ask me to do it, I felt pretty honored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really exciting, man. And like we said earlier, like, who knows where it'll all lead? It's all...
Yeah. It's fun, like, the adventure of making stuff. Try not to get too bogged down in, like, the future.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned in the biography, and we don't have to get into this if you don't want to, but you put it in the bio, so it's maybe worth talking about. But in the end of 2020, you kind of had a mental breakdown. And what was that like, or how did that manifest itself, or whatever you care to share?
Yeah. Well, I tread lightly with this because it was during COVID. I think most people had a hard time. I mean, I found it to be very beautiful in a lot of ways, but like at the same point, there was there was sort of a breaking point for me, and just in terms of, I don't really know what the actual conduit was, but I guess it was a lot of things over a long period of time that boiled up then, and just went into panic attack mode and couldn't get out of bed, and went to get help, and got on meds and ended up getting into meditation, and that all helped, and I started writing songs about it. That was like again, I found a spark right then, and I needed to express myself about it, and that's where the Sundays record came from. Yeah. But it wasn't like what the reason why I say I tread lightly is because I know pretty much everyone suffers from some sort of depression or anxiety. It's just varying degrees, and I wasn't, it wasn't like life threatening or anything like that. So I want to be sure to say like I'm not special in any regard, but yeah, it's just something that affected me and my family, and we made it through it. So yeah.
Do you still is transcendental meditation
Yeah.
is the form? Is that still part of your practice, or?
Yeah, I bet I do it like 4 or 5 times a week, whereas I used to do it twice a day, and I need to get better. It's just like anything, it kind of fades off, but it's a muscle, and if you can keep it up, then when you really need it, it's not like you're starting over,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't practice meditation, but I have at points in my life, and it was a time in my life, kind of my early 30s or something, where I was really serious about it. Well, when I was early 20s, when I got really involved with a Zen Buddhist group in my college town where I went to college. I was like the youngest person by 20 years that was in it, but it was really great for me. And then I revisited it in a time of acute anguish. And I ended up going to an outfit that was associated with a lineage called Vipassana. And people who do Vipassana, it's like totally a thing in a known quantity. And there's these Vipassana centers all around the world, maybe 50 of them, maybe more. And the sort of the flagship operation of these Vipassana centers is what they call a 10-day silent retreat. And it's really 12 days because you start at day 0 and you leave on day 11. And for those 10 days, it's like 100% silent. Mm-hmm. And they ask that you not only don't speak, but act as though you're there by yourself, and really you're sort of avoiding eye contact. And so there's a part of, initially you're like, man, this seems kind of weird, especially at like dinner time, you're sitting around the table with these people and nobody's talking to each other. And very quickly, like, it becomes so not just comfortable, but there's something sacred about it. Like you can really be with these people as human beings, like, and we're all in this journey together, and it's not easy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go off about this too long, but it was a really that I only did it one time, and it was by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's just like that long, and you're meditating 10 hours a day. It starts at 4 a.m, and you go to bed at like 7 p.m. 10 at night.
So what does your day look like?
You wake up at 4. You do an hour sit, followed by 5 minutes of walking meditation. So you go outside, you just kind of walk, and you're like, you have your little zone. And then you go back and you sit again. And the first 3 days, and then you break it for breakfast, and breakfast is like yogurt and prunes or something really, really light. The last meal of the day is at noon, and it's also vegetarian. It's like salad and tofu and stuff. But in between 6 and noon, you're just doing 60 and 90-minute meditations followed by short walking meditations. There's no break. I think there's a short break in the afternoon. And then there's like a Dharma talk in the afternoon, followed by one more long sit from 4 to 6 p.m., then dinner. Then I think you go to bed. But the first 3 days, you have your spot in the main meditation hall, and they kind of line it up. So like the seasoned veterans are in the front row, and they just sort of go back and back. And so that I was the beginner row, so I was in the last row. But you have your little spot, and you're kind of like, some people like to sit on pillows, some people like little benches, combination of the two, whatever. And the first 3 days, you're allowed to kind of like, if you're uncomfortable. And then day 4 at the Dharma talk, he's like, all right, we're done clowning around. Like now is when the real work starts. And so from this point out on, it's going to hurt. And we just ask that you don't respond to the pain, and you just continue to sit and watch your breath. I mean, the whole job for 10 days is to watch your breath go out the tip of your nose and in your mouth, and you're just feeling it on the top of your lip. That's a whole goal. I think I maybe successfully meditated for 3 seconds one time. I mean, probably literally. But in that first session, I just remember that 60 minutes. It was so crazy because you're sitting there and like your right shoulder just starts hurting, and all you want to do is adjust yourself. And then you're like, and then it's like really hurting, like a few minutes later, and then it's like screaming, and then you're like, there's my shoulder just screaming. Wow, there it is. That. And then there's something else. It's not like the pain goes away, but it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
And then it really does go away. And then the same thing starts up in like your lower back. It just moves all over your body. And there's something, like these are spiritual centers in your back.
Yeah.
I don't know all the right words, but I remember that first session when it was up, just like leaning forward and sobbing. And it was something about, not from the pain, it was just like facing something. And then that's day 3. So you have 7 more days.
Yeah.
It's pretty hardcore.
I would love to do something.
Yeah,
like that.
maybe check it out. There's a center in out north of Atlanta, and it's free. There's a donation that you can make, and a lot of people who've had like a lifetime relationship to Vipassana and the tradition become very successful people, and they kick down so that other people can go for free.
Yeah.
And you can also go and just like cook. The people there were half the people. They're not half, but a good percentage of them were like helping in the kitchen, and then they would join for the sits and whatnot. But all this to say is that like, even though I don't practice on a daily basis right now, there was some like lasting takeaway for me, which was the distancing of my personal pain, like from my personal identification with that pain. There's something really so simple, and it's not like, I don't know, it's not like a therapy thing. It's just that awareness of like, wow, my shoulder really hurts. And it's not like I really hurt. It's just like there's that pain. And I can be, for me, like, oh, wow, I am not very successul or as I want to be. I'm like, there's that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have to be that. And that's, I mean, it's been so beneficial for some of the like, uglier parts of career.
The creative
stuff.
life.
The creative life. Yeah. It's very easy to compare and
I love that.
have pain.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
It was founded by a doctor named Goenka, and he was actually Burmese, and he was a very successful physician, and he started getting migraine headaches in his 40s, and he was wealthy, and so he went all around the world trying to cure this problem, and there was to no avail. And somewhere in his travels, he discovered this kind of like forgotten approach to meditation from a small area in India, and he sort of brought it back. And it started with him in, I want to say, the 70s, but he only passed recently. And he's just a guy.
Yeah. So if someone practices that, do people practice that daily in some regards, or is that?
Yeah, there's
is it only like, retreats?
No. There's local chapters for sure. I'm sure there's a Vipassana place here. Yeah, and it is funny because once you break the silence on the last day, you're kind of allowed to like talk a little bit. And I was like, oh, it's like a thing. So like there's people that are like Vipassana junkies, and they travel from one to the next to the next to the next, and they're just like high on
kind of get it off on that.
Yeah, it's like
crazy.
being a fish head or a dead head or something, a Vipassana head. So maybe at some point something becomes a culty or an idol, or who knows? I can't speak for them.
Yeah.
But the thing about meditation, I just feel like is of such practical value, is that it is not a religious thing.
Mm-mm.
It's spiritual, but it's also just like very practical and kind of dovetails nicely with the bodily connection too is something that I just feel like is so attractive and wanting in some of the Western expressions of practice. I come from like an evangelical home, and I'm still like, I hang out in that zone. We go to a Catholic church, even though I'm like not quite 100% sure why. But
I grew up Catholic.
okay, yeah. The thing I didn't, and I think that's part of the attraction for me, is that like it's not about you. It's about, there's this tradition that has been around for 1,000+ years, and we're not gonna like, the Catholic Church ain't gonna like make it nice for you just because culture's changed or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling Randa, my wife, about this last night over dinner. I'm like, maybe it's just like, I just read somewhere where church attendance is down, and like, oh, cool, that's a form of rebellion I can participate in. I'm gonna start going to church. I swear to God, there's something there.
Yeah.
But like, just that like absence of like being in your bodies is, I think that's really wanting in the Western expression, and I think the Buddhists are onto something there.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a very windy. No,
detour. I enjoyed that.
Well, you know what I would enjoy is maybe playing another song.
Yeah.
It's I meant to do this or brush the subject after the painting because I thought it was a nice segue.
Oh, right.
That was ages ago now, but maybe you can set up the ship.
Oh yeah. I wrote the ship. It's one of the first songs we recorded for my last record, Sundays, so it wasn't really part of the whole. The ship and Anna Please, honestly, weren't really part of the whole mental breakdown period. Anna Please is about the movie that I talked about, and then the ship is about I lost a friend to fentanyl, and it's about him and that. Yeah.
Of all the poses, all the roads, is this the one to turn to? So high and mighty, draped in papal robes, could it be the thing that saves you? Looking across the valley, not a soul in sight, counting every breath to ease my mortal mind, far, far from the will of the wise, far, far from these earthly desires, far, far away. And when I escape, I'll harbor no fear. On a mountaintop of stone, bird wings and wild barking dogs are all out here. A little heaven for a home. Looking out a window, not a soul in sight, counting every breath to ease my mortal mind, far, far from the will one to turn to.
Man, thank you for letting me join you on that.
Yeah,
It's really great.
Thanks.
The last thing I just wanted to touch on was that you posted, or in the part of that bio, I think Kirby Brownie wrote it, quoted you, I think a song lyric, "We are capable of such a mess, but God still lives in godlessness." And that actually really speaks to me and gets at some kind of like spiritual pursuit that I'm after. And there's this writer, it's somewhere over there. He's like my favorite guy. He has the book called My Bright Abyss. His name is Christian Wyman. And he's had a fascinating story. He grew up in West Texas. He watched his mother murder his father in front of him as a small boy. And then his sister and him were sent through the foster program. And then he contracted a rare form of cancer and is somewhere in there became the head editor of Poetry Magazine. He's like a very special soul.
Yeah, interesting.
And he's written all kinds of books that are poetry books and spiritual books. And he's kind of, I guess he would be a Christian believer now, but only like in the most esoteric way. Definitely like mainstream churches would not recognize him as one of them.
Yeah.
But that's probably why he appeals to me. But he has this quote that sometimes God calls us to unbelief so that belief can take new forms. And I find that to be such a blossoming statement. Not that like the ultimate destiny of people is to have faith in God or something, but that like faith, belief and disbelief or unbelief or are not so different.
No, you're correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to articulate, and it's nice to find people like that writer who do it well, because it is really hard for me to. But I think everything you're saying is why I wrote something like that, you know? I guess I'm always kind of on that quest to, whether it's find beauty in all things, which is such a cliche, but like for real, you know, that's what's wrong with that. Or, you know, meditation, mindfulness, you know, a quieting of the mind to be able to recognize that like the thing you are in right now is just as important as the thing, if not more important, as the thing that you think you're about to do or that you already did. So, yeah, I mean, that's... I love that song. I love that line. But it's hard for like people to talk about.
Yeah. It's
without sounding corny. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like that's the main thing. I have a hard time articulating a lot of those kind of songs because I don't, it's dumb. It's insecurity, but I don't want to sound like the cliche shit. Man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why like whenever somebody starts quoting Bible verses or something, I just want to run the other direction because it's just like, God, that's just dead to me, you know, for me, like that's why we write. I feel like that's why we write songs, is to breathe life into an eternal idea that's also at the same time constantly changing and has to. Otherwise, it's dead. That's, you know, one of the jobs of, to me, art is to breathe new life into.
But that's interesting that your kind of your appeal with the Catholic Church, because it is very based in tradition and not moving forward in a lot of ways, but like a beautiful tradition.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, for me, just on a practical way, what I like about that, I like having a time every week that is removed from mundane time. That is just like my wife and I go to this place for an hour, and it's like I sit there and I'll listen to stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Sometimes I just like to think about, just not have my phone. And just have a place that I go to that's not about me, and it's not about, and also in the Catholic tradition, it's not a show. in the way that, you know, I grew up. There's a drum set on stage and a big old
But it
praise and
is
worship
like
team.
there is a bit of pageantry, which is the part that I love.
Yeah, there is a pageantry, but and it's part of that like pageantry of old. There's something maybe attractive about that everybody's doing the same thing at the same time. There's also a little bit of it's just like I don't understand it all, and there's room for that for me. There's room for mystery. Although at the same time, I'll just tell you this, is that I can't be Catholic because I was married when I was 18 and I got divorced at 22. This is so long ago, it was another lifetime. My ex has since been remarried for a very long time. We have no contact, not, you know, unhappily or inamicably or something. But like when we went through, you have to go through an adult education thing to be Catholics. Brand and I went through all of that. It's on every night or every week on Tuesday nights. It's just like drove across town, did this thing. I was like, oh, okay, we did it. And then they're like, well, so just make sure. Oh wait, you've been married. Okay, now you have to petition the people, and you have to write a long thing, and you have to reach out to your ex person, and we have to decide whether or not you were actually married. And there's a big kind of fuck off from me for that. And it's just like the legalistic aspect of the church is like, I don't know if we're going to hang in the church. I don't know. It might just be a passing thing, but
yeah, it's a bummer.
It's just, honestly, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just like, and that's probably the Protestant part of me that's grown up. It's just like, you don't get to say, like, just because I didn't fit right into this, like, it's so bureaucratic and petty to me. Yeah. So, you know, that's off the record as far as the Pope is concerned. But anyway, man, thank you so much for spending this hour talking to me and
this is fun.
Getting to know you a little bit better. And I'm really excited for the show at the Julia Martin Gallery.
Yeah, please come.
I will.
I'm going to play some tunes too, along with my friend Spencer Cullum.
Oh, he's so great.
Yeah. So
on pedal.
Yeah, he's going to play pedal steel with me. And then he also has his own project where he writes songs and stuff. So he's going to sing some of his.
Wonderful. I mean, it lends itself well, being a singer-songwriter, to the live thing, is that it seems like it would be a shame if you didn't play a little bit.
That was that was Julia's stance. She was like, you should just play some music.
Yeah.
Like, however short or long you want, like, it's just going to be me and Spencer. It's not, I don't know how attentive people are, whether that matters, but it's just something to bring more people in and, hang out.
Yeah, expand the experience.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to it.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go ahead and click here to like and subscribe. You can click right there to watch another video, or click here to watch a playlist featuring the songs of the Morse Code Podcast.